Welcome back to my channel. I'm John Fairhurst with my latest review of my books. This time we're looking at The End of Eternity by Isaac Asimov, which is his major foray into time travel and some of the paradoxes inherent in the genre. The story was written as a novel back in 1955, and the edition I read for this review was published in 1981 by Panther Press. That makes the time between this edition and the publication of the initial book far less than the period between the book itself and this review. Excuse me. The cover illustration is by Chris Foss. As far as the genre is concerned, it is a bit of a mixture, with the underlying setting being eternity, which is more of an organisation than a particular location. Although the action is spread over multiple centuries of physiotime, it isn't strictly speaking a time travel novel, although it's as close as Asimov gets. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Even more unusually for an Asimov story, there's actually quite an involved love story. So what is eternity? Eternity is an organisation and a place. It's a collection of what they call levels, spread throughout a vast range of millennia, accessible by devices called kettles, each level being staffed by their own collection of people who fulfill the purposes behind the establishment of eternity. So what are they doing hidden away from reality? Well, the usual: change the fate of humanity so that any really bad thing is deleted from human history, such as wars and famines, so on and so forth, by creating reality changes that the eternals are isolated from. The Eternals, the inhabitants of eternity, are split into what are effectively castes, at the top of which are the computers who create the formulae that tell them what changes are required. Then the sociologists and life plotters who try and calculate the effects that these changes will make. Right at the bottom, below even the unclassified maintenance people, are the technicians, the ones that actually go out into time and effect the changes mandated by the computer's calculations. Our protagonist is one Andrew Harlan, one of those despised technicians. We follow Harlan's entry into eternity and through his initial explorations into time as an observer, one of those people who spend time in the current reality to gather data for those initial calculations for the changes, where he excelled. He finds himself coming to the attention of the great computer Twizzle, head of the Orwen Council. Here he comes to know a new member of Eternity by the name of Brinsley Sheridan Cooper, a cub, who seemed to have developed a rather unusual interest in the primitive era, that being the part of human history predating the establishment of eternity. Unusual. Harlan had thought it was just himself, but frankly he was so pleased to find an interest he shared with someone that he didn't really question Sheridan's interests. As he learns more about Sheridan, though, the stranger the situation appears, for Sheridan is in his early 20s, not the more usual 18. Even worse, Sheridan was married, though without children. Harlan's boss was less than happy with him when he took Sheridan on a trip in one of the kettles as well, which drives Harlan's growing disillusion with eternity. Harlan is sent back to his old training ground under computer Finge, who seems to have developed a real hate going with Harlan, and is determined to destroy his reputation. By this time, though, Harlan has a growing understanding of his importance to the future of eternity, and pushed back against Finge's bullying, especially when he finds out about Noyes Lambert, a young woman Finge had brought into eternity against all rules. That was enough to anger Harlan, but Finge's insistence that Harlan's observations of the current milieu were made from Noyes' resident reality almost brought him to open rebellion. While spending time with Noise, Harlan finds himself falling in love with her until they finally do the naughty with each other, and he feels compelled to save her from the impending reality change. This leads to his final rebellion against eternity, when he has a life plot made on her survival in that change, only to find that she was a low order probability in the current reality. At this point, he barely notices this, but it makes an interesting bit of foreshadowing. Only seeing the fact that she wouldn't exist in the changed reality. Only seeing the fact that she won't exist in the changed reality as an opportunity to pull out of reality altogether. He grabs Noise and takes her in the kettle up into the far future of eternity, where the Eternals were unable to leave the eternity. Still focused on his mysterious cub, Harlan wonders a little when he finds some unusual books in her library, but is more scared by the near miss of him nearly meeting himself in her home. After trying to get back to Noise, Harlan is shocked when his kettle is brought to a crashing halt right on the 100,000th century mark, firing up all his paranoid fears and driving him into open rebellion against the Orwen Council, and he is determined to wreck what he perceives the mission of his cubby to be. Of course, Harlan hasn't got the full picture behind the mission until after he makes his strike. He'd thought his cub, Cooper, was being trained to go back past the beginning of eternity to show Victor Mallinson, the inventor of the Mallinson field, how to generate the field that was the forerunner of eternity of itself. The truth was even more fundamental to eternity's existence, though. This doesn't really lessen Harlan's desire to do in eternity, if his demands to free Noise aren't met, though. Harlan learns that his love affair with Noise wasn't the major infraction of the rules that he'd imagined, and that Twizzle's past held an even bigger no-no, but still not enough to soften Harlan. He was placed in the control room, but he'd expressed enough concerns about his mental state that he's locked in there with no apparent way to alter events. But they didn't know he was armed, and he uses this to gain access to the controls, where he applied his own impulse to them. For a short while, he thinks he's won and destroyed eternity, with that minor caveat that eternity still appears to exist. After a discussion of past transgressions, Twizzle breaks Harlan's despair by pointing out their continued existence. Now it was a matter of making some choices and assuming that they would keep eternity in existence. First, where did Cooper actually end up? Then how would the marooned Cooper communicate with Harlan through the intervening millennia? All choices made, and eternity still stood. Harlan reasoned out that Cooper would try and communicate with him through the medium of adverts in the news magazines that he had been using to teach the cub about the primitive eras. Committing to searching through his back issues, Harlan finds eternity surviving, and almost 3 days of blurry eyes as he searches through these magazines. But eternity still exists, and Harlan finds his message. Here he puts his foot down again and demands that the barrier between himself and Noise be taken down. Twizzle denies any knowledge of this, and Harlan's scented enough at this time to notice the fear that accompanies Twizzle's denial. After lots of testing, the maintenance staff also say there's no blockage, and Harlan and Twizzle take a ride up where Twizzle expounds on his fears of the hidden centuries. Infected by these fears, Harlan rushes through the century where Noise had been exiled. After a heart-stopping few moments, the two are reunited, though Twizzle's appearance seems to upset her more than Harlan had expected. Soon, everyone's back in conspiracy headquarters, and Twizzle demands that Harlan fulfills his side of the deal and goes and rescues Cooper. Holland's final demand is that Noyes goes with him, and with the pressure on, Twizzle agrees. As the kettle makes its momentous journey, Holland starts putting together answers to a few of those questions he had about the whole situation, and not particularly liking them. When the kettle deposits them in the 19.38th century, he confronts Noyes about his guesses, and she pretty much confirms them, leaving the future of eternity to his trust in her. The story pretty much holds up surprisingly well, considering its age. It's not a great ideas book, which is perhaps a bit unusual for Asimov, and equally unusual for an Asimov tale. The characters actually play a major part. The characterization of the characters actually play a major part in the story. Though I reckon he ought to stay clear of romance, which he did pretty much, to my knowledge. You know where the comments are if you think differently. Anyway, folks, thank you for watching this review of The End of Eternity. If you liked what you've read, what you've seen, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Please use the Amazon links in the description if you want to read the book. I do get a small commission, but this has no cost to you. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.